Hello everyone, Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I'm going to be doing a stock analysis video on Funko Inc., ticker symbol FNKO. Obviously this stock makes the little figurines with the big heads. These can range from anyone between, real life people like Kurt Cobain and Michael Jackson, all the way to Disney characters and Marvel characters and things like that. Because of the business model, Funko Pop obviously relies on licensing deals and arrangements with different companies, artists, whoever, to actually be able to produce these Funko Pops without getting sued. And essentially, I think this video is going to be very interesting because you're going to be able to make your own determination on whether you think this stock is undervalued, overvalued, or perfectly valued, right? At the end of the day, this stock is going to do well or do poorly based on the demand for these toys. So if you think the fad's over, then the cash flows probably are not going to continue to look good. If you think that Funko Pops are going to be a thing in 10 years, this is probably a really lucrative investment, right? So it's a very interesting, different kind of company. I kind of like doing these types of videos too. And it has, a relatively way lower market cap than what we're traditionally, used to seeing. But I think that the company, interestingly, has a lot of notoriety and a lot of people know about Funko Inc., but it's not a super valuable company. I mean, it's more valuable than what I initially thought, but the company isn't like a $10 billion company or something like that. Compared to how much you see these things, it's like the marketing is just amazing for these things. And there's just so many of them. I mean, you go into any Target or anywhere, a Walmart, whatever retail stores you go into, even Amazon sells them. And there's Funko Pops there where you can buy of pretty much whatever character you like. I mean, if you're a Spider-Man guy, you can get a ton of Spider-Man Funko Pops. If you're, like I said, a Michael Jackson guy, if you're a Hulk guy, if your favorite character is Ant-Man, you can own your own Ant-Man Funko Pop. And moving on to the actual stock, right? Sorry, I got sidetracked there, guys. It currently trades for $13.96, and it's up a staggering 73.63% over the past year. And the market cap is $756.02 million. The 52-week low is $5.36, and the 52-week high is $14.65. Here's what analysts have to say about Funko. The three analysts with 12-month price forecasts for Funko stock have an average target of $14.33, with a low estimate of 12 and a high estimate of 16. The average target predicts an increase of 2.65% from the current stock price of $13.96. So this is saying that the analyst consensus is a strong buy, but we literally only have three analysts with 12-month price forecasts. So I don't really know if this is super relevant to the actual, anticipated price. And only a 2.65% increase leads to this probably being close to fair value. But I really think that this stock is very much a wild card because it really just depends on how much demand there is for these little figurines. And personally, I don't think I want to even get involved with this because it's not the type of business that I'm, super knowledgeable about. I'm not claiming to know a lot about the toy business or, the licensing arrangements that they have. But, I do think it's an interesting, very risky stock, and you could probably, I think it's just as likely that you Forex your money as you lose it all personally. And that is totally not financial advice, and it's just my opinion because I'm not a financial advisor. But I think that this stock has extreme risk reward going on, and I'm not that type of investor personally. But if you're someone who, does their own research and understands that Funko Pop is completely undervalued, and, I kind of talked about this yesterday with a stock I was looking at where it was GE Vernova, and it was extremely overvalued in my DCF, right? So it looked like the stock was trading at an extreme premium, and that's because just future energy demand is probably going to increase, right? I think that this one's the opposite, where it's going to look like it's trading for a discount, but that's just because it's so risky to get into, right? And the analyst consensus here is that there's 2.65% increase in value. One of them has the stock being only worth $12. So that analyst is obviously bearish on the stock. So there's not really a lot of upside from the analysts, which is not good, right? And the stock is so close to the average that I don't think it's even worth the risk to look at. But we're going to get into the DCF and kind of calculate what I think the future cash flows might look like and see just where I think a fair value might lie, right? Here I have my weighted average cost of capital for Funko. I got a weighted average cost of capital of 7.67%. This is obviously by taking the cost of debt after tax. I got 8.013%, and the cost of equity using cap M of 7.511%, and then multiplying each of these costs by their respective weight. Funko is currently 32.4% debt weighted and 67.6% equity weighted, or just the market cap. They have pretty significant debt weighting, and I think that there's a lot of risk that this stock, could not perform at the level that people want it to. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions with this model because currently I have a 0% growth rate of the free cash flow. Obviously that discount rate that we calculated before of the, weighted average cost of capital of 7.67%. And it's showing that there's 11.11% upside. The reason I think that there is so much misconception and why I think that this is unrealistic, despite the average free cash flow growth rate being so big, which totally makes sense because these things seem to have exploded in popularity, right? Even with average revenue growth of 16%, I think that, modeling out 9 years of growth is very difficult to do with this type of company because this type of company is going to be fighting for its life to be able to stay relevant. I think it's going to be a stretch that people are still buying these in the volumes that they're buying them, in 10 years from now. I think that there's a very high possibility that this could be the next, Cabbage Patch Kids or something like that. Now, they're obviously trying to really push their brand and become like the next Pokemon or something like that, right? Like just this giant conglomerate of, Funko Pop figures in everyone's house, right? But I don't know if that's a consistent and good plan, considering just the fact that so many other companies have failed. I mean, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are really the exception to the rule, and you could even argue that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not nearly as popular as it was in the early 2000s. Funko is really fighting a very difficult battle where very few have persevered, but someone playing devil's advocate could also make the argument that Funko is a very different company because it utilizes so many IPs. Now, I also think that the licensing is going to be very difficult in the future as well, but if you think that over the next 9 years they're able to grow free cash flows by 4%, then this stock looks very attractive. However, you're not getting any sort of dividend. They have significant debt, and it's very risky. And I think that it's very near the fair value for that amount of risk that you're taking on. And I am urging everyone watching this, and again, not financial advice, I think that you should steer clear of this and look for companies with more quality. Even if this company goes to $100, I would still, if I knew that, obviously I would want to buy it. But if it went to $100 and people were making fun of me or whatever, I would not feel bad about it because there's just so much risk that bad things can happen in going into the future and that Funko Pops will just not be popular enough, or something will happen where they'll just completely go bankrupt because they're not also a very big company and they're heavily relying on staying relevant and people continuing to buy these things while they still have a lot of debt funding and just, people might, I know there are people who will reoccurringly purchase Funko Pops, but there are going to be a lot of people who just buy a Funko Pop once, think it's cool, and then just never buy one again. And obviously that's completely fine, but that's not good for Funko, right? I mean, Pokemon has people who are like religiously into it, and I don't see that same power from Funko Inc. And I don't think people should be buying this stock. I think there's way too much risk in it, but let me know what you guys think. I mean, I I also think it's very difficult to model because you can't really model 9 years in the future if you don't know, for one, they're still going to be in business, or if you don't know if they're still going to be doing the same volumes and actually shrinking into the future. So there could be a good buying opportunity here, but I just tend to want to stay away from stocks like this because it just seems way too risky and not the kind of thing I would want to invest in, especially because I have a long-term horizon and I don't really like risk. I like making money pretty consistently and just getting paid my dividends and sitting back and knowing that I don't have to worry that if my company doesn't sell enough Spider-Man minifigures, I'm going to be able to have a retirement, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Please hit that subscribe button. Check out my other stock analysis videos. This was more of kind of a fun one with a company that I thought was just really interesting and kind of piqued my interest, right? So I had a lot of fun making this video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.